1880. Two young boys, George and John Pickett, they were hiking through Williams Canyon right out there, and they heard this strange whistling noise. Kind of like when you blow on the top of a bottle, except 100 times louder. So these boys, they're around 8 and 9, they have to go investigate. And remember, it's the 1880s, so they go into these huge, massive sinkholes with only little candles. And they get about 20 feet in, they can only see a couple feet in front of their face, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, the wind wipes out their candles. These two young boys go screaming down to Manitou Springs that they had just found a haunted cave. Now, of course, they're 8 and 9, no one's really going to believe that, except for one man, George Snyder. He thought to himself, well, I mean, there's no harm in checking it out. And he also worked for the newspaper, so he wanted a juicy story. So he came to the canyon, found the two massive sinkholes, and started digging a hole. And right over there, ladies and gentlemen, is where George Snyder popped out into this beautiful area we call Canopy Hall. Now, when George Snyder came into this beautiful hall, he saw these formations right over here, and he thought they reminded him of the balconies in an opera house, so therefore that's why we call this room Canopy Hall. Now, within this hall, there are 3 structures I'd like to point out that we'll see a lot during this tour. The first one are stalactites. You can remember that because they come tightly to the ceiling. The second one over there is called a stalagmite. You can remember that because you might trip on them. And the third one, ladies and gentlemen, is right behind you. That is what we call flowstone. Now, flowstone is pretty interesting in the way it forms because when the water flows down, it slowly deposits minerals and makes a beautiful frozen waterfall effect. Now, I know I said I only had 3, but we actually do have my favorite structure in this room. It is called a stalagmite. Now, when we go through our cave system, I please ask that you hang on to these pipes at all times. It may get a little rough inside, but before we go down to our next room, I would just like to stress to you guys that in no way, shape, or form are you stuck in this cave. If you feel claustrophobic, maybe a little bit of altitude sickness, and you feel like you just want to get out, please let me know. I can have an escort come to you guys right away, get you right out of this cave. So at any time, if you feel uncomfortable, please just let me know. And with that, let's head on down to our next spot. And remember, our lucky stalactites are here for you guys. Just for the rest of the group, I ask that you stay to the right. We might have another group coming through. Let me know. And we're just going to come over here. And while we are waiting for the rest of the group, I have a little fun fact for you. Up there is what we actually call Atlas Column. When George Snyder first found this cave, he thought that it was the column that held the whole cave structure up. Now we're a little bit smarter. We know that's not the case, but it's just pretty cool. And if you guys want to just keep continuing down here, I promise I don't bite. I promise. Make sure the rest of the group can come down as soon as you get that lovely photo. Alright, we want to make sure the rest of the group can come down. So if you guys want to just keep continuing down. Okay, is that our last group? All right, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to Boston Avenue. Boston Avenue got its name because when our first tourists came here, they thought it reminded them of the winding streets of Boston. Now, unlike Boston, our lovely Boston Avenue has a 410 clearance, so if you are taller than 410, I suggest you duck. And with that, we will be going in, so ladies and gentlemen, watch your head and watch your step. Just go right through that hole. Thank you. I think I might just be able to back like that. Let me see. Nope. Oh gosh. I can't just stop walking.
There you can.
Oh. Oh, wow, that's cool. That's cool. In that room, it is ladder today too. So we gotta squeeze in there. Good job. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to keep filling in the space, we've got just a couple more people to squeeze in. Alright. Are you the last person, sir? Alright. So if you guys want to just scoot that little, so our last group can get over once. Alright, so welcome to Reception Hall, ladies and gentlemen. At this point in the original tour, it would have taken about 45 minutes of just crawling. And actually, that tunnel you see right there is the original tunnel they would have had to crawl through. Now, luckily, technology has advanced a little bit, and so we've been able to do a process called cave pushing. Now, cave pushing is where the smooth stone meets the rough stone, and basically what we've done is we've taken a pickaxe, shovel, and where the smooth stone started, we took all the loose gravel, dirt, sediment, things like that, and we pushed them into insignificant passageways, like the one you guys see right behind you. Now, because that used to be where the floor was, that ladder right there is actually where our original guests had to climb up, and right next to that is actually those black stains are soot marks. Because back on the original tours, they only had lanterns and candles. So before they went up that, they had to snuff out their candles and climb up that ladder. And what we call total cave darkness. You guys will find out more about that later. But another formation that's really cool in here is what we call a ribbon stalactite. So ribbon stalactites form kind of in the way when the water runs down your arm when you're doing the dishes. So on a slanted surface, the minerals will slowly deposit themselves and create what we call a ribbon formation. Now, here in the cave, we don't allow food or anything. I get a little hungry in here, so I like to call that cave baking. Now, if you guys really enjoy our buddy 4'10", you'll really enjoy my friend 3'8" as we climb up these stairs right here. I'll point it out to you, but as soon as you go up the steps, please watch your head and watch your step as you continue. Very close here, okay. Alright, so you guys can come on here. 3'8" clearance, actually right here, ladies and gentlemen, when we continue up. So please watch your head when you're climbing up.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, dude. Lost your glasses.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh no, you guys are fine. I just want to make sure that people don't know. Just want to keep following it. And while we're waiting for the rest of our group, does anyone have any questions so far? Yes, no, maybe?
So this open year round?
Yes. Yeah, even winter.
Ooh.
It's nice in the winter though because when it's like -10 degrees outside and it's snowing, it's 52 degrees here all year round. So it's pretty nice.
Did they do concrete with a nice floor so we're walking on or
Yes, it's concrete, yeah. They had to take it in one wheelbarrow at a time, so it took about 20 to 30 years to do that. Yeah. And then we're waiting on a couple more people.
I think we're here now.
All right, perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Manitou Dome. Manitou Dome is home to two different types of limestone. One formed in the Ordovician period, which was about 450 million years ago, and the other formed in the Mississippian period, which is about 350 million years ago. Now, another cool structure I'd like to point out here is what we call cave coral or white-beaded anthodite. White-beaded anthodite kind of defies the laws of gravity in the way it kind of zigzags and swirls. We'll see that a little bit more in the next room called Crystal Palace. They have huge pieces of white-beaded anthodite there, as well as our soda straw nursery. Now, it kind of sounds like maybe they'd be baby stalactites, right? No, these are actually 1,000 to 3,000-year-old stalactites. Now they form is actually pretty cool. It's like the water slowly drips down and the minerals in the water are slowly deposited in rings. So they form ring after ring after ring after ring after ring, until we finally end up with a hollow cone. The end closes and the minerals are forced to go inside the cone, so therefore the stalactite is no longer hollow. As well as our soda straw nursery in the next room, we have my old pal, Old Bruiser. Now, Old Bruiser gets his name because he's knocked out a few people in this cave system. So as we go by, I want to make sure to pass the warning down to every single one of us. So don't get too caught up in looking at the nursery, because I'll point out nursery, and the person behind me will say nursery, and so forth and so on till that reaches the end. And then I'll point out Old Bruiser, and the person behind me will say Old Bruiser. I really, really want this to make it to the end of my tour. I've never had it happen so far, so I really want to see if that can happen. Also, we have a saying here in the caves. It's right is right and left is lost, so as soon as we pass Old Bruiser, we're going to take a sharp right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can follow me.
I never got to turn around and go some other way. I was like, wait, what?
All right. What do you know
Somebody jumped like 6'3", and the cave door I was like, you know what you say? I was kidding. No, I'm not.
And Old Bruiser.
Nursery.
All right, and remember after Old Bruiser, we're going to take a right.
Nursery. Nursery. Nursery.
Nursery.
Bruiser.
Bruiser.
Nursery shop. I was here in 1974, you can go figure, I guess. So it says, signed up for maybe 1983.
Oh gosh.
I just squeeze my shoulder and that's all I got to do.
Piece of wood. We actually passed it, but we like to call it Colorado Rose. Now, I think there's another group up where we're headed, so we're just gonna wait a couple seconds to make sure we're down safely. So, I'm just gonna do a quick double check, make sure we can go on up. There we go. I think we're good. So if you guys want to follow me up this staircase, and the stairs are actually really small, so it helps if you point your feet towards the window.
Okay, my feet are small anyways. My feet are small anyways. Mine aren't. Oh, they are pretty small. I might just be able to walk on my tiptoes.
Taking sideways.
Alright, while you ladies are heading on up, I'm going to start so the next group doesn't catch us. Welcome to the Temple of Silence. I like to call this the Temple of Silence because even though I'm from here, and after climbing all those steps, I really just don't want to talk. I want to stay silent. But anyways, if you guys will look right back there at those huge stalactites you see behind you, we call that our Jaws formation because it looks like a giant shark's mouth, as well as If you see, maybe the taller people could see back there, but we're actually about 20 to 30 feet below the ground. We can tell that because our maintenance workers, when they go up and change the light bulbs, they can actually see tree roots. Now, we're actually in the tallest part of our cave system at about 7,000 feet. We are the second tallest cave system in North America, only second behind Glenwood Caverns in Lemon Springs, Colorado. Now, it's kind of dark in here, so I'm going to shed some light on a couple other formations. So, right there is what we call the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and to the right of that is E.T., still trying to phone home for Betty. And right over there, if you can see that kind of 7 shape, that is what we call Guide's Lucky number 7. It is a helictite. Now, helictites are kind of a scientific mystery. No one exactly knows how they form, but we here at the Cave of the Winds like to think of one explanation. Wind. So maybe a wind tunnel opened up or something, started blowing those water minerals to the right, the wind stopped, they started going down like that. Also, to the right over here, we have a broken column. When this cave was discovered in 1929, we found it like this, so we think that maybe some plate tectonic motion or something broke the column before recorded time. But because they will never meet in the same way again, we call the top one Romeo and the bottom one Juliet. Also, do we have anyone here from Texas?
Thank God.
All right, so sorry. Up here we have our Colorado bacon. It is our largest piece of cave bacon in our system. It is 4 feet long, 1 foot wide. And over here we have our Texas bacon. And that proves that maybe not everything is bigger in Texas. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what comes up must go down, and unfortunately that means we have to go down those stairs again. So if you guys want to use the handrails, and once again point your feet towards the handrail, it also helps a lot. We'll be headed back down, and as soon as we reach the bottom of the stairs, we're going to make a sharp right. That's it.
Thank you. Sorry, you've been blessed in the cave? No? Yep.
I found a couple of people turn left. So I'm like, oh no, please. Excellent. So as we start filing in here, I'm going to start my spiel about this place. This is what we call Guide's Rest. Now, on the original tour, it would have taken about 3 to 4 hours of nothing but crawling to get to this point, and this was actually the first room where you could stand up in the entire tour. Sounds like a blast. But also right there, that is the original chair and table that the guides carved out into the limestone. No longer functional, so please do not try it out. But the other people used to sit on the floor in a picnic table style. As well as that, we actually have my favorite formation in here. It is called Giant's Bleeding Heart. Now, Giant's Bleeding Heart is a massive piece of flowstone that has iron oxide and calcite mixed into it to look like veins and arteries. And this wall right here is actually man-made. So guys, when we're passing by, please feel free to look up and see Giant's Bleeding Heart. All right, we're gonna move on now. glass looking at your circle on the red, so it's kind of weird to me. Yeah.
That's cool.
If you want, I'm gonna actually have you stand to the right. Sorry. I like wave my arms everywhere because I really don't want to hit you. I get really excited. And if you actually want to stand a little bit to the right. No. That way. Sorry. My bad. Your left, my right. And keep scooting to the right.
Oh, I find the back, that would be.
Yeah. If you guys want to stay in the back, that'll be fine as well.
Slide right here, everybody. Is that it? Is that good?
Perfect, yeah. All right, so we got everyone, I hope. All right, so welcome to the Valley of Dreams, ladies and gentlemen. This actually used to be the end of the original tour. We're right behind you. There used to be a massive boulder. Now, in 1935, one man named George Jeffries, he was leaning up against that wall, and he heard wind. And of course, this cave of the wind, so he figured there has to be more cave. So after his tour, he went to his tour guide and he was like, I really think that we should tear down that wall. There's like gotta be more to this cave system. And the tour guide was like, we would absolutely love to, but we don't have enough money. But lucky for us, George Jeffries was a very wealthy man. He was part-time owner of the Union Pacific Railroad. So he said, I'll do it for free. I just have 2 requirements. And his first was that his name be said on every single tour till the end of time. So, George Jeffries. Also, as well as that, he asked for his favorite line of poem to be posted in our cave system. It reads, dreams of mountains as in their sleep. They brood on things eternal. Beautiful poem about Cave of the Winds, right? No, it's about the Grand Canyon in Arizona. Why he wanted it here, we will never know. And also right behind you, ma'am, this is what we call Pickett's Column. Now, Pickett's Column is a little bit shinier than the rest of our formations, and that's because at the end of the original tour, people used to actually rub Pickett's Column for good luck. So what you see on that shininess is actually 50 years of human hand oil and bacteria.
Oh.
Yeah. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, our human oil will get into the pores and clog them up. So the water and sediment can no longer form down and make stalactites and columns. So Pickett's Column is what we call dead. But scientists estimate that it'd be about 8,000 years until Pickett's Column grows once more. So as we pass Pickett's Column, I ask that you please do not touch him. I mean, you probably don't want 50 years of bacteria on your hands anyway. So with that, we can follow into the next room. Also, as you know, there's a really cool library. So what's your step number? Alright, you guys don't have to stay in a single file line either. You guys can come in, I promise. We gotta make a number for everyone. Yeah. Alright, so this is what we call the ancient village back there. Now the ancient village is called that because if you can see right back there, there's a little temple and then there's a bunch of little tiny buildings that surround it, so we like to call it our city. As well as that, we also have our gargoyle. It is a piece of white beaded anthodite that grew on a stalactite in a column, pretty cool. And we like to think he watches over the city. As well as that, we have the longest stalactite in our entire cave system. It's about 8.5 feet long and it's about 100,000 years old. So creatively, we named this our longest stalactite in our cave system. But as well as that, I would like to talk to you guys a little bit about how our beautiful cave system was actually formed. So, 500 million years ago, Colorado and Kansas, we were actually underneath a very shallow sea, and within that sea, organisms such as plants, animals, fish, things like that, they lived in that sea. And as they died, their shells and bones slowly sank to the bottom of the ocean. And because of that, the water slowly compacted them into what we call limestone. Limestone is actually what our cave system is made of. Now, fast forward about 70 million years, the Rocky Mountains slowly pushed out of that shallow sea and created the mountain range. As well as that, they also created cracks in the limestone, which we call lifelines. Now, lifelines are exactly what they sound like. They literally give life to our cave. It allowed water, snowmelt, other things like that to drip through and mix with the CO2 from the limestone and create what we call carbonic acid. Now the carbonic acid in the water slowly swirled and swirled, and it made its way down slowly until we had an underwater cave system. Now underwater, we're not underwater right now. So the water table slowly had to reside down and down and down until this cave system was eventually above the water table. And with that, the lifeline still led in minerals and water, so that's why we see these beautiful formations surrounding all of us. All right, and in the next room, called the Adventure Room, we will be experiencing a thing I mentioned earlier called total cave darkness. Now, total cave darkness is literally exactly what it sounds like. It is the second darkest place on Earth besides the Mariana Trench, which is the deepest trench in the ocean. As we go into there, there's also a little lip where the cement ends and the dirt begins. So as we go in there, I ask you to please watch your step. All right. And I'll point out this as well. It's right.
That was wild. It's like you're in a dark room, cover your eyes for like 30 minutes. It's insane. That is a step.
You guys can keep filing in. We gotta make sure everyone can get in here. Perfect, right there. Awesome.
Turn the lights off.
Okay. Almost everyone's in here. Just gonna put on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the Adventure Room. The Adventure Room was opened on Mother's Day in 1988. So to all your mothers out there, congratulations. You have your own room in Cave of the Winds. As well as being that is actually our entrance to our Manitou Grand Caverns. Unlike the Cave of the Winds, Manitou Grand Caverns does not have any electricity in it, so your tours, called our lantern tours, will look a little like this. Now, as you can kind of see, you can't really. You can maybe make out some formations, maybe a little bit of the color of the rock, but not much. And also on our original tours, as I mentioned, that ladder. So the tourists would have to put out their candles and they'd have to climb up their ladder in darkness like this. Now, this is complete total cave darkness. Maybe. Perfect. All right, so this is total cave darkness, ladies and gentlemen. If you try wiggling your fingers in front of your face, if you see anything, congrats, you're hallucinating. About 10 minutes into total cave darkness, the average person will start seeing hallucinations, and after 45 minutes, we'll all be hallucinating together. All right. As well as that.
That's wonderful.
Perfect. And as we continue into our next room, I would like to introduce you to my friend. He's the Rock of 1,000 Names. That is because every single time someone hits their head on that rock, they'll give it a name. As well as that, we will also be entering our smallest tunnel. We call it Tall Man's Headache. That is called that because it's a very low clearance. But I have a little rhyme to help you guys through it. If you tuck, duck, and suck, with any luck, you won't get stuck. So with that, watch your hands on me.
Another spot. There's a lot of little tunnels like that going up different directions.
I feel like a lot of people should.
Bruiser's way back there. Yeah, I passed 3 different telephone messages down the line, so I'm sorry if they didn't make it back.
Okay.
following you? Yeah.
Yeah. I slowed up.
Thank you.
I knew there was supposed to be so many behind me.
I can feel the rocks on. This is every minute.
Do we have everyone?
Hold up.
Okay. Perfect. Just let me know when.
Sure.
The people behind us. Now. Okay, I think we're good.
We're good.
Okay, good. Perfect. So, on our right, I know we said we didn't have too many formations, but there's actually one exception to that. It's called polished soapstone or cake onyx. Now, it's polished by a machine so you guys can see all the cool layers. With giant splitting apart, it has iron oxide and calcite, and you can actually see the stripes. And it says if you rub that rock, you'll have enough luck to get up on 19 steel stacks. So as you go by, feel free to touch that stone, but I'm going to pass along where the stone actually is, because some people have guessed wrong, and so there's a bunch of bacteria and fungi around the actual rock. So as you go up, I'm going to ask if you guys can have the rock there. I'm just
Gotta pass it on.
Disadvantage to be short.
Yeah. Over here too. Yeah. I don't know what I can get now.
This right.
Nice and smooth.
Alright, so as our last friends enter this room, I'm going to start my spiel once more. So this is Coral Dome. It's called Coral Dome because of the beautiful white-beaded anthodite you can see above you. This white-beaded anthodite is more intact than our white-beaded anthodite magnitude dome because we're not tall enough to reach that piece. Also, over there's another beautiful piece of white-beaded anthodite, as well as one of my favorite formations, our stalagmite. Now, our stalagmite was put there in 1907 on July 4th, and it is actually a Thomas Edison design. So, that light bulb is 100 years old or so, so we took it down on its centennial anniversary, hooked it up to a battery, and it still worked. So it kind of makes you think about light bulbs today. Also, I would like you guys to meet my friend Pink and my friend Pong. If you'll meet Pink, you'll meet Pong. So as we go up these stairs, please watch your head and watch your step. Pong.
Stairs.
Coins and bobby pins. They're not pine needles, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought these were pine needles too, yeah.
What?
Alright, if we want to keep continuing in, so all our lovely friends can see this beautiful pile of bobby pins. Yeah. Okay, so right here, this room is called Old Maid's Kitchen. This room got its name because in 1910, on one of our original tours, two young ladies, both 18, came through this. And they were only 18, but back then they called them old maids because they were 18 and unmarried. But, I know, times have really changed, thank goodness. But anyways, these two young ladies came in and all they saw were rocks. And they had been climbing for like 3 or 4 hours, so they were super upset. So they asked their tour guide if they could leave 2 silver hairpins on this shelf right there. And the tour guide said, why not? So they left him there. And then a year later, they came back and whoa, surprise, they were married to very, very wealthy men. And so the legend goes that if you put a silver hairpin on that shelf, you'll have a year of good luck and a marriage. But if it falls off, you'll have a year of bad luck and a divorce. Now, as you can see by the massive amount of bobby pins and coins, we had to actually discontinue this practice because the shelf actually began to fracture. So we had to reinforce it with concrete and cement. But lucky for us, we transferred all the magical powers into this beautiful brown bin. So if you guys would like to try your luck, maybe donate a little money to this brown bin. All the proceeds actually go to local Manitou charities. And as we continue through, these are the Hallelujah steps. We call them that because Hallelujah is the last set of steps on this whole road. Now, also as we continue down, what direction do you think we're going to turn at the bottom right? No, close. We will actually be taking a sharp left U-turn. It's the only left in our tour. Good guess though. Alright, as we continue down these stairs, we're going to make a left U-turn. Actually, I'm going to put them all.
Time out of that place, maybe you 2 years. Or 1 year extra.
Turn right here.
2 years ago, or 1 year extra when you started?
Alright, now that our last folks are slowly making their way down. But you're on time, so I'm going to start pushing you right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last room you will be visiting here in our cave system. It is named Zephyr Dome. Zephyr Dome is formed actually a little bit different than the rest of our cave system because instead of top to bottom, it goes bottom to top. The water slowly filters in. The carbonic acid, it swells around, creating that smooth stone you see up there. And eventually the pressure was too much where all the water came out right there. But as well as that, Zephyr Dome is actually our largest dome in our cave system. So that's pretty cool. And as you're walking by, you can see actually kind of a foot shape. There's like a toe or something right there, and then like an arch, and then a heel. But you guys will all be able to see that later. But as I said, this is our last room, so I hate to turn into the walking infomercial once more, but I have to. So, I will be handing your guys' photos back. If you would like the hard copies, it's $15, an additional one is $5. As well as that, if you want a USB copy with a JPEG of your photo and 30 other pictures and videos of the cave that actually we don't allow anyone into, those will be on there as well, $15. If you want the beautiful package of them combined, it's $19.98. Now, as we continue into our next room, you can kind of see that this stone is a little bit different than the rest of the stone. That's because it's actually a man-made tunnel. This was built in 1960 to alleviate cave traffic. And here's a little tip, even though it's man-made, it's not man-height. So once again, please watch your head and watch your step as we continue. Walk.